It's Tuesday, January 4th, and this is now on HNN.
Different communities have different issues that they're concerned about.
Most public school students are returning to the classroom today following the winter break, which brought record-setting COVID case counts.
Being just a regular American, you should be able to come and go as you will.
COVID-related staffing shortages create hours-long lines for airport arrivals going through the safe travel screening process.
Some people like their coffee black, others with milk and sugar. But how about wearing it on your feet? I'm Ian Lee with what's brewing overseas.
The upper part is made from majority coffee waste.
These stories plus a special way to pay tribute to the late Betty White. That's coming up on This Is Now.
Aloha and thank you for watching This Is Now. Let's get right to the latest coronavirus numbers being reported by the state. The health department is adding 1,592 new COVID infections today. More than 1,200 are on Oahu. The Big Island is reporting triple digits, and there are 11 new cases on Lanai. The statewide test positivity rate is at 17.1%. Now for more on the day's top stories, let's send it over to Jonathan.
Thanks, Ashley, so much. You know, thousands of public school students returned to the classroom today. Over fears of that surge in cases, let's toss it over to Sammy Salino for more on that in today's Talker Story.
DOE leadership says they have safety measures in place that have already proven to be effective against the spread of COVID-19, but union leaders say they need to see those plans. The president of the Hawaii State Teachers Association said that the Hawaii Department of Education and Department of Health had time to make better plans for these types of situations and failed to act in a responsible way.
You know, we've been asking the department over and over to sit down with us to come up with contingency plans. What do we do in certain cases? What do we do? As the Delta variant started to come down, we said, we don't know if we're in the beginning, middle, or end of this whole pandemic. Let's sit down and come up with whatever procedures we need.
In a letter to parents, DOE Interim Superintendent Keith Hayashi said his team worked closely with the Department of Health over the holiday break, but Hayashi also says he expects cases to rise because, quote, schools are a reflection of their communities. Leaders are confident that the current safety measures have been working and will continue to keep everyone safe.
We're concerned like everybody else, but we're very confident in our procedures. We've been following our procedures for over a year now. When we really look at it, the spread's happening off campus.
The DOE also says there are plans in place for every school in the event that they need to switch to online learning.
Ideally, we want to keep all of our students on campus for the in-person learning because we know that's where our students get the most from their education. However, we are prepared in the event that there needs to be a change in our plans. Our school has ensured that our students already have access to an online platform.
The teachers union says that other counties across the United States have been taking proactive steps. For example, the Los Angeles School District has ordered tests for all of their students and their staff. Sammy Solina for This Is Now.
And just a short time ago, we got this update from the president about students returning to the classroom.
We provided the states with $130 billion, with a B, billion dollars to specifically keep our students safe and schools open. Funding for ventilation systems in the schools, social distancing in classrooms, even larger classrooms, on buses and everything from bus drivers to buses, the actual bus. There are additional, in all this process, we also back then included an additional $10 billion for testing for schools. That money went out to the states, and the states and the school districts have spent this money well, many of them, but unfortunately, some haven't. So I encourage the states and school districts to use the funding that you still have to protect your children and keep the schools open.
Now for more on the surge and the status of Hawaii's hospitals, here's Hilton Rathel. He's the head of the Healthcare Association of Hawaii.
Because of the Omicron surge, there is a very large amount of community spread, and that impacts our healthcare workers. And we have been monitoring how many of our healthcare workers have been out. Last week, we're looking at a few hundred healthcare workers are out. And yesterday, when we were looking at the numbers, it looks like we have at least about 1,000 clinical healthcare workers out right now. Now, this is because of either being exposed or positive. Doesn't mean they're sick, doesn't mean they're a hospital, but because of the CDC and DOH guidance, they need to be out. They need to quarantine or isolate for a number of days. And that's very concerning. This is not groundskeepers. This is not accountants. This is not, finance people. This is people who are on the front lines. And so to be short 1,000 workers, and we believe that's a conservative number there, because we haven't asked everyone but to have about 1,000 clinical staff out and not available to take care of patients is not a good thing.
At the state's airports, staff shortages are slowing down the clearance process for incoming travelers. Hawaii's Safe Travels program is overwhelmed, with some incoming passengers waiting for hours to be able to leave the airport. To speed up the process, the state plans to create a fast pass. And starting today, the health questionnaire will be eliminated from the Safe Travels form.
The whole thing's frustrating, especially if you're not coming from, out of the country. And being just a regular American, you should be able to come and go as you will.
The state is also asking passengers to complete their forms and get registered online before traveling. So as expected, the state health department upheld an emergency order that the Navy drain the fuel from its massive tanks at Red Hill. The Navy is fighting the state's order, disputing claims that the facility poses a threat to Oahu's water supply. Now, the Board of Water Supply says if the Navy keeps fighting this order, the agency might indefinitely close its nearby Halava shaft and the Halava and Aiea wells.
AT&T and Verizon have agreed to postpone activating their 5G services near airports until January 19th. It comes amid fears of widespread disruptions to air travel and shipping and a potential legal battle over the matter. Aviation industry officials were expected to sue the Federal Communications Commission. That was in a last-ditch effort to keep the rollout from taking effect on January 5th. In December, the Federal Aviation Administration warned that it planned to ban pilots from using a key aircraft instrument over concerns that 5G signals could interfere with the devices. It's a decision the agency said would likely lead to widespread flight delays and diversions. According to the Labor Department, a record 4.5 million Americans quit their job in November in what's being called the Great Resignation. Michael George has more.
I quit my job in February of 2021.
Last year, Gabby Iannello decided a corporate job in real estate wasn't for her, and she wanted to try something new.
With the world changing, it put a lot of perspective of life is short, so I might as well try now while I don't have kids, I don't have a mortgage.
The experience of resigning led to her own company called Corporate Quitter, where she offers podcasts and consulting, and more people are joining her. The Labor Department says 4.5 million Americans quit their jobs in November, a new record. Many of those resignations are coming in the restaurant industry, trucking, and healthcare.
People don't want to always settle for the same thing that they might have settled for in employment in the past. Now we know that many jobs can be done remotely. Now we know that there can be a higher degree of flexibility.
Bankrate economist Mark Hamrick says people are quitting in the middle of a worker shortage. There are 10.6 million job openings in the U.S., according to the Labor Department.
The challenge for 2022 is going to be matching the supply and demand for workers.
Any advice for people who are really close to doing what you did? They're thinking about it.
Experiment before you actually take the leap. You're never going to know what you like or if you're even cut out for it until you actually try.
Iannello says her leap is leading to success in business and in life. Michael George, CBS News, New York.
Now to this update, a Colorado wildfire that destroyed hundreds of homes has been boxed in by firefighters to prevent it from spreading. But officials are warning that high winds could produce flare-ups for the blaze that destroyed nearly 1,000 homes and left 2 people missing. Firefighters are monitoring smoldering and damaged structures and vegetation in the fire zone between Boulder and Denver as the winds are picking up ahead of a snowstorm that's expected tomorrow.
On Kauai, a landslide near the Waimea Swinging Bridge has closed Menahune Road, isolating about 24 families. No injuries were reported, and affected residents are urged to avoid the area. Officials say anyone who needs emergency access during the closure should call 911. There is no timeline yet on when the road will be reopened. We did finally see some sun yesterday, but there were still periods of heavy rain. This is what it looked like on Hawaii Island. High water prompted police in Kohala to close Mamalahua Highway near Parker Ranch.
Now to severe weather on the mainland. Crews have been extremely busy rescuing hundreds of motorists from their cars following a massive winter storm in Virginia. Dan Shinneman has the latest.
It's a nightmare more than 24 hours long. I-95 in Virginia at a standstill. NBC's Josh Letterman among the drivers who spent the night in his car.
I can see thousands of cars from where I am on the highway on I-95 have been in their cars overnight without food, without water. It's been 26 degrees outside, and nobody knows how long we're going to be here or how we are going to get out.
The cause? Nearly a foot of snow that fell on the Washington, D.C. area.
This is one of the worst storms we've seen in a long time.
Virginia state officials now struggling to get help to drivers and get traffic moving.
We have the resources to be able to get to where we need to, but just because of the storm, the ice, the accidents, it's been very difficult getting to the individuals that need our help.
The weather also affecting air travel.
We've been here for like 6 hours almost.
Yeah, now we have to wait like 4 more hours.
In Maryland, 46% of flights were canceled at BWI, just one of many airports where the weather was just the newest strain on a system already beleaguered by COVID infections and the post-holiday travel surge.
So our flight was canceled, spent about an hour rebooking us all onto a different flight. That flight got canceled.
Travelers dealing with lingering frustrations at the start of a new year. Dan Shenneman, NBC News.
Thanks, Dan, for that report. And I was just checking our H&N weather app, and it does look like portions of Oahu are still getting a little bit of shower action. Take you live outside, and we can see that gray gloom out there right now. The island remains under a flash flood advisory for about another hour. So let's turn it over now to Guy Hoggy with more on the changing conditions.
It's a bit of a wet start for us here on Oahu, but as the day progresses, we'll see fewer showers, especially late in the afternoon. However, late in the afternoon, because of the light winds, we could see some afternoon cloud buildups that might spawn a few showers. They might even be briefly heavy. But overall, we're going to see a drying trend today, especially starting this afternoon. Now, the surf this afternoon will be picking up for north and west shores on a new swell, and this one's going to be bigger by tomorrow. And with those southerly winds, conditions will be very good out there. Still got to watch out for some brown water that could be lingering from the weekend's flooding. So we've got still some damp conditions for Oahu today, drier by tonight, and then a few minor splashes tomorrow with variable winds. We could see even some fog and some haze. And keep in mind, also, it's going to be a little bit more sticky for the next several days.
Well, living here on the islands, most of us don't even know what a snowblower looks like. But for some specialized workers from UH, they've gotten pretty handy with the equipment, especially this time of year. Jim Mendoza explains.
This is the kind of work you expect to see being done in states where snow is plentiful. But this video was taken from the driver's seat of a snowblower atop Mauna Kea. The men who do this work have one of the most unique jobs in Hawaii.
Never in my wildest dream I'll be working up here.
Tracy Miyashiro is the senior staffer on the Mauna Kea Support Services utility team. When snow dumps on the mountain, he and his co-workers drive the heavy equipment that clears a path all the way to the 14,000-foot summit.
It takes a toll on your body. I mean, I feel it. Over the years, I have felt it. I mean, the newer guys now, they feel it. Not everybody can work up on the summit or at this elevation.
Miyashiro's worked on Mauna Kea since 1985. Some days it's freezing.
pretty sure with wind chill factor, it'll go below 0.
The roads need to be cleared for astronomers and telescope personnel. Weather reports and a camera feed give the snow crew an idea of what to expect. In extreme circumstances, they can be working during whiteouts and blizzards.
I mean, I've been up there in conditions where you're lucky you can see 10 feet in front of you.
The University of Hawaii began employing snow removal workers on Mauna Kea in the 1970s. The job hasn't changed, but today's equipment is better.
It made our job a lot easier because now we have 2 blowers instead of 1. It cuts down the amount of time that it takes us to remove the snow.
Miyashiro has worked on snow drifts as high as 14 feet. One year, snow fell on Mauna Kea every month except for July.
And that was kind of interesting for me. You know, I was like, this summer it's snowy, really? You know, but hey, Mother Nature.
He says when he's traveling and people ask what he does for a living in Hawaii, they can't believe his answer until he shows them his videos. Jim Mendoza, Hawaii News Now.
The Sports League for Oahu's public schools is no longer allowing spectators at games. The OIA says based on the rising COVID counts, athletes must also wear masks at all times except for paddlers, swimmers, and wrestlers. The OIA spent 18 months without fans before dropping the ban in October. The new ban has no end date. In just 1 month, Beijing will host the Olympics, but with COVID cases surging around the world, questions remain whether China can pull off the games safely and without a major outbreak. Janice Mackey-Freyer has more.
The countdown is on, the venues are ready, but athletes and organizers are on edge, and it's going to be a test of the elaborate measures that officials here have in place to ensure COVID outbreaks don't derail the Olympics. The closed loop zones in Beijing and the 2 areas hosting mountain events will enforce daily testing. They'll have restrictions on movements and 0 interaction with anybody outside of the bubbles. This all comes as China is racing to contain its biggest COVID outbreak since the early days of the pandemic back in March 2020. The city of Xi'an is in its 2nd week of a total lockdown. 13 million people are confined to their homes. Now, COVID, of course, is not the only challenge facing these games, with the diplomatic boycott by U.S. officials and other countries, as well as the controversy around Peng Shuai, who is expected to meet the IOC president before the end of the month. Now, given the rise in Omicron, there are questions being asked about the risks that come with hosting a big international event like this. But China's government and Games officials are adamant the Games will go smoothly and the Olympics will go ahead on schedule. Janice Mackey-Freyer, NBC News, Gansu, China.
Let's take a look at what the internet is talking about today. If you're still waiting for your Amazon delivery, it might be here. In Oklahoma, the county sheriff's office found nearly 600 Amazon packages dumped in a rural area of Oklahoma City. Some boxes had been opened and the items were stolen. The sheriff's office said the packages were supposed to be delivered by Christmas. They had left an Amazon warehouse and were en route to the U.S. Postal Service for delivery, but never made it. The sheriff's office said it has reached out to Amazon and they are investigating along with USPS. Now, what did you find today, Jonathan?
Well, Ashley, there is a lot of entertainment news to get to today. Here, let's talk about this first. Fans of the late Betty White are putting together a special tribute via social media for the actress. They're asking everyone to donate $5 to an animal shelter or rescue of their choice in her name. It's called the Betty White Challenge, and it calls for donations to be made by January 17th. That would have been White's 100th birthday. The beloved actress is, of course, well known for her love of animals. She worked with many zoos and was an advocate for animals. She had many pets of her own as well. Of course, she passed away on December 31st at the age of 99. All right, to other entertainment news. People are talking about David Bowie, and here is why. His estate just sold the publishing rights for the legendary singer's catalog of music to Warner Chappell, that's a music publishing company, and Variety reports that the value of this deal is $250 million. The deal covers every song Bowie ever wrote, including the album that's about to come out on Friday. Bowie would have turned 75 on Saturday. All right, let's get to some good news now. And if you heard about this, especially being in a coffee growing state, the world of coffee is definitely going to change a little bit. That's because they're making almost anything out of the waste. This is a really unique story coming to us from Ian Lee. Here, let me play it out for you.
Many of us use that jolt of Java to get moving in the morning. Now a company in Finland is turning that caffeine kick into actual kicks.
Sneakers made from coffee. Yeah, it's crazy. We know.
Wrens used a Kickstarter fund to brew up their waterproof sneakers using old coffee grounds.
We actually took it and mixed it with recycled plastic pellets made from used water bottles.
It takes just over a cup of used coffee beans to make a pair of shoes. That translates to 21 cups of Joe.
The upper part is made from majority coffee waste.
Globally, we produce more than 23 million tons of coffee waste every year. That's a lot of shoes.
We actually realized that only 5% of the coffee waste in the world actually got recycled.
And when it breaks down, it produces methane, a greenhouse gas experts say is about 30 times more harmful than CO2. Makers say wearing that waste is a fashionable way to help save the planet.
We want to be a brand where it's like, yeah, we make sustainable products, but they are cool. They have like really cool functions. People can actually use them.
A sustainable style that could also help cool the world. Ian Lee, CBS News.
Thank you, Ian, for that report. And he mentioned in some information he sent to us that the company is also looking to expand using coffee waste to use in other gear, such as athletic wear. All right, we got even more coffee news to share with you. This is coming to us from Starbucks. Yep, the coffee menu just got a lot bigger and greener there. That's because Starbucks announced it is bringing back the pistachio latte, and it is effective now. That's right, pistachio latte is back at Starbucks. You know what it is? It is a latte featuring espresso shots, steamed milk, and sauce made of real pistachios. It's also topped with a salted brown butter topping. The drink can be ordered cold or hot. That sounds delicious, guys. That sounds very delicious. All right, moving on to some other good news. Have you heard about this one yet? These twins making headlines, and it's about a 1 in 2 million chance of this happening. Listen up. This pair of twins in California have different birth dates, months and years. That's because Alfredo, the little boy there, was born on New Year's Eve, and his little sister came along 15 minutes later at exactly midnight on January 1st. This was in California. The boy Alfredo weighs 6 pounds and 1 ounce. His little sis came in a little bit under that at 5 pounds and 14 ounces. You always hear about something like that happening, but this is the first time I've actually seen it fact. You wonder if that could happen, but I guess it did. It just did. All right, guys, that is gonna do it for This Is Now on this Tuesday. Don't forget, First at 4 coming up in a couple hours. You get all the updates throughout the day, and we're podcasting all the time here. You don't want to miss those podcasts H&N's putting out. I'm going to leave you today with some pandas having fun at the National Zoo in D.C.